Has anyone ever wronged you? Have you ever wronged anyone? Now, I trust that you're either nodding your head or steaming at the ears or something. Of course, right? That makes everyone. Everyone goes through that. Everyone has been hurt by somebody and everyone has hurt somebody, right? That's just a fact about life and relationship. Unfortunately, that happens. But that being said, it's important to know, right, about forgiveness. Why we should forgive, how to forgive, even when it's hard. And today in this video, we're going to talk about 3 reasons to forgive. Now, these are not the only 3 reasons, but I think that these are 3 of the best reasons to forgive. And I think that by the end of this video, you'll see that forgiveness isn't just something that God asks from you. It's actually something that God wants for you. So reason number 1, unforgiveness, it only hurts you. Unforgiveness can feel like power. It can feel like you're holding on to something important. But in reality, it's holding on to you. Unforgiveness is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to get sick. The only one you're hurting is yourself. And in Hebrews chapter 12, verse 15, it says, "See to it that no one falls short of the grace of God, and that no bitter root grows up to cause trouble and defile many." That phrase, bitter root, it is so important because roots, as we know, they're hidden at first, right? You don't see them right away, but over time they grow and they affect everything above surface. That's exactly how unforgiveness works, okay? It starts small. Maybe someone says something that hurts you, does something that hurts you, and instead of doing something about it, you hold on to it. You replay it over and over again. You let it set, right? And over time, it grows. It turns into frustration. Then it turns into anger. Then it turns into bitterness, and maybe even resentment. And it slowly begins to affect how you see other people. You start to assume the worst about people. You get irritated more easily, right? Your patience, it grows shorter. And you might not even connect it back to the original hurt anymore, but it is. It's connected. And the worst part about it is, right, this will really get under your skin, is that the person who hurt you, they're probably not even thinking about the situation anymore, right? But they are living rent-free in your mind. So who is it really hurting? The definition of forgiveness is the release of resentment or anger. Forgiveness doesn't mean reconciliation. Forgiveness doesn't mean that, you pretend like it didn't happen. It's about refusing to let it take control of you and your life. Life is hard enough. It really is. You don't need the extra burden of unforgiveness and grudges in your life. Like I said, it's hard enough. Now, reason number 2 is forgiveness isn't optional. Now, here's where things get a little bit more challenging because in Matthew chapter 6, verses 14 and 15, Jesus says that if we forgive others, God forgives us. But if we don't forgive others, we won't be forgiven. Now, this is not a transaction. This is not a transactional thing. This is a transformational thing. Forgiveness is not a natural response to us, but it is once we have been transformed. Once God's grace has touched our hearts are overflowing with that grace and it goes to other people. That's what Jesus is making it very clear here, that forgiveness is a big deal, right? He tells us that forgiveness isn't optional for a follower of Jesus. It's not something we do just when we feel like it, right? It's not something we do just when the other person apologizes. No, it's something we do because Jesus tells us to do it, which means forgiveness is not based on your feelings. It's based on obedience. And I know this is where some of you might push back a little bit. You might be thinking, Jenna, you don't understand. You don't know what they did. You don't know how bad it was. You don't know how bad it hurt me. And you're right. I don't know what situation you're going through. I don't know what bitterness you're holding on to. Unforgiveness is holding you back. But I'll tell you what, Jesus does. And when he said this, he knew what you would be going through. And you know what? He still says to forgive. Now, forgiveness does not mean that you're saying it was okay. It does not mean you're saying that didn't hurt. It doesn't mean you immediately trust that person again and allow that person back into your life. Forgiveness and trust are not the same thing. Forgiveness means, though, that you're choosing to let go of your right to get even. You're releasing that to God. You're choosing not to carry around bitterness anymore. You're saying, I'm not going to let this control me anymore. And that's hard. It's really hard. But Jesus warned us that following him wasn't going to be easy, but that it was going to be worth it. So when Jesus commands us to forgive, it's not to make your life harder, but to make your heart freer. Now, reason number 3 for why you should forgive is because you have been forgiven for more than you even realize. Colossians 3:13 says to forgive as the Lord forgave you. And when you truly understand that, it changes everything. Because when we think about forgiveness, we usually think about what they did to us. But this verse flips that around and says, look at what God has done for you. Look at what you have done to God and look at what God has done for you. Jesus went to the cross, not just for the small mistakes, but for your every sin. Every lie you've ever told, every selfish decision, every moment you ignored God, every thought, every word, every action, past, present, and future. All of that was placed on Jesus. And while he was hanging on the cross, being mocked and beaten beyond recognition, he said, Father, forgive them. That's the kind of forgiveness that we are talking about. So if you follow Jesus, you are completely forgiven. Not partially, not temporarily, completely. And you have been forgiven for more than you realize. Think about every bad thing that you have ever done. Everything, even the things that no one knows that you've done. Even the things that you've tried to forget about. You tried to sweep under the rug. God knows it all. And yet he still chose to forgive you. So why do we hold onto someone else's wrongs when God has already forgiven them for that? Why do we hold on to someone else's wrong when God has already forgiven us? You will never have to forgive someone more than God has already forgiven you. I'll say it again. You will never have to forgive someone more than God has already forgiven you. Jesus has asked you to forgive, which is hard, but it will never come remotely close to what he's done for you. He literally died for you. He's not asking you to die for the person who has wronged you, but just to forgive them, to put away your pride, to put away your right to get even. We don't forgive because it's easy, because it's not. We don't forgive because they deserve it, because they don't. We forgive because we have already been forgiven in a way that we could never earn, in a way that could only be gifted to us by the grace and the goodness of God. So if you are thankful for what Jesus did for you, then forgive today.